My name is Bruce Gilpen, and my company is Versity Software, and I'm here today to just talk a little bit, I guess, about founder stories. So I'll go quickly through our story and talk a bit about what the journey's been like for us. It's a fun assignment because other than talking about my kids, my dog, talking about my company is probably my third favorite thing. So I could talk all day, and I'll try to, I've kind of prepared a few slides here where I'm going to try to talk a bit at Shaheen's suggestion about forming, launching, and managing a startup. I'm going to try to use my phone here to advance the slides. Okay, but first some context, just so you know a bit about our company. I think it would help to understand my advice if you have a picture of what we're doing. So Versity Software, we're the only pure play large-scale data archiving company. We're in a very unique position in the market, which I think is important if you're going to do a startup and fight battles with much bigger companies. So what we do is store and protect very large collections of data, both in HPC and in industry. And we execute optimized large read and write workloads. So a lot of people have the misapprehension that archives are cold or just dead data. Most of our customers have very active reading and writing going on in their archives. Okay, it's got a mind of its own here. And then we orchestrate data residency, meaning we park data in different technologies, on different media, and in different locations. So kind of a copy brokerage function. The part of the market that we're after is the top. The G up at the top being government sites, which are the largest, and then right below that, the Global 2000. So our competitors are IBM, Oracle, HP, and Quantum. So that's kind of the market segment we're playing in. Our company has been going for a few years now, but we're still small, very much still a startup. We deployed our first beta customer back in 2012. We got our first paying customer in April of 2013. We did this on an absolute shoestring beta project. But someone was willing to pay for it, and it was a big, influential customer. We did our first strategic partnership in July 2013, and that was with Cray. So there's some convergence here between Gary's great presentation, which informed me a lot. I didn't actually know that many startups had sort of originated and could be traced back to Lanel. But the other interesting thing about the Startup HPC website is the Cray reference, because we're very much standing here today because of Cray. They were our earliest partner and took an equity investment in the company. I'll talk a little more about that in case anyone's interested in that path versus a traditional investor path. We released the 1.0 version of our commercial software in April of 2014. We landed our first $1 million contract. They prepaid for it, multi-year big storage deal. We were a small part of a much bigger contract, but we did that in January 2015. That's a big milestone for any storage company, especially one of our size. So that was great to get under our belt. We often get what most startups get, which is you have a good customer or prospect, but they want to know, hey, where are you deployed? How many people are there? They get nervous about being small. So having one big commercial publicly announced deal out there is really super helpful. And then we made our first Fortune 10 POC, which one of my team members who's here, Ben McClellan, has run for us this summer. And that's ongoing, and we expect news any day now on whether we won that, but it obviously will propel us kind of to the next phase of growth if we can win that. So that's sort of where we are as a company. Why we're disruptive, this isn't an ad for Versity, but I wanted to put this slide in because I think for startups, you got to have a multi-point plan of attack, and it should be disruptive along more than one dimension. I think in this community, a lot of people focus on technology, which is the most important dimension, but there are others, and we're getting a lot of traction because we assembled a whole range of disruptive elements. One is that we're pure play and doing software only. When people are buying software, they're often buying it from hardware companies, and you pay a big price for that because there's a lock-in paradigm and there's a desire by those companies to sort of marry you from the software to the hardware. And so we don't do that. We don't get involved in hardware. People can buy commodity hardware and deploy our software as they choose. The minute we started this, we got inundated with people saying, build an appliance. You got to build an appliance. Everyone wants an appliance. We really haven't done that. Our partner Crate tried that, and other partners may do it, but they're hardware companies. We're sticking with our guns here and doing software only. We have a subscription business model. Every single other player in our sector does perpetual licenses. So this was an easy opportunity to differentiate. We don't do minimum contract terms. Again, nobody in our space would touch that with a 10-foot pole. When we had our law firm draft our initial customer license agreements, the thickest chapter was about a 20-pager on the term of the agreement and what would be involved with exiting the storage contract. And we just crossed it all out. We have one paragraph. It just says you can leave whenever you want. It's literally a 30-day notice. So the very next month you can inform us, you're free to go. Nobody's left. We haven't had one single customer leave us. So this is symbolic in a way. It's not hurting us. But it does cut through when you're competing with, guys in $5,000 suits who can throw a 20-person sales force at one account because they're wearing those $5,000 suits for a reason, which is that they're locking people into 5 and even 10-year deals sometimes. So we don't do that. And then we even go further and we say, well, hey, not only can you leave anytime you want, but when you do, you can just go ahead and keep on using our software as long as you want. Read only. I mean, you can't use it for free in production. But the point is, while you're migrating off of our technology, we felt there's no reason you should be paying us. Our customers don't have this practice. They'll have customers paying for 2 years while they migrate off. And trust me, the price goes up during that 2 years. So these are all really important things. We have an open source data format. We're really aggressive on our technology roadmap, much more so than our competitors, which gives us a great edge. I would say now all of the deals we're closing are based on our forward-looking roadmap. And as a startup, it's really a wonderful thing because we're agile and have a great engineering team and we can build new stuff. We're not afraid of it. But we can talk about it. Oracle, HP, Quantum, they're all public companies. They have dozens of people from their finance department having quarterly meetings with their sales teams, pounding it into their head that they cannot promise technology. It gets into a huge accounting issue if you start promising technology, because then the accountants will say, well, you promised it, you can't actually book that revenue now, even though you collected the money, because you didn't deliver everything that was on that customer presentation. So it's a huge, huge issue. They're really tough about it. They don't promise new technology. And that's an area where we're completely free. We can promise anything we want. We're honest about it, of course, but we share our technology plans. And our new customers are buying based on what's coming. And then we've differentiated on support, which is easy to do because most people sell support and then don't really deliver it. So I could tell you more about that, but I want to get on to kind of who we are and what we've done, more about the company. I'm the founder, co-founder, and CEO. I've done a bunch of startups. It's my domain. I'm kind of the business arm of the company. My great co-founder here is Harriet Coverston. You can see her background there. Lawrence Livermore, Control Data. This is kind of the second time around for her with a similar company. She was a co-founder at LSC, where they invented and deployed the product that became SAM QFS. Bought by Sun. Sun became Oracle. The product is still there. Our company is based on Sun's open source version of that product. We're moving fairly rapidly away from that code base, but it's been our foundation. And having Harriet as a co-founder has been just tremendous, and she looks after the product and the technology arm of the company. So maybe I'll give a side note here. If I'm giving advice, find a great co-founder, and find a co-founder that doesn't do what you do. For a lot of time, we've been thin on money, thin on people, and you have a lot of bases to cover. I can call Harriet and say, hey, stand in for me. I can't give this pitch, or, go give this talk at this conference. I can't make it. She can do it. She's an experienced CTO, but she also has a depth of technical knowledge that I don't have. And it's really wonderful to work with someone like that, because she appreciates what I do. I appreciate what she does, and that makes for a good company. You get that part wrong, and you're pretty much done. My ventures, I just want to not brag, but give an idea of sort of what I'm bringing to this conversation, in case you want anything from me at the end, or to talk to me. I've done over 10 startups. I think it's closer to 20 if you count investments, which I don't really count. We've raised a lot of money, and when I put this $400 million, that's the money I was either in the room or did the pitch deck or was on the core team that raised that money. It's not a company I was at. That's a higher number. But we've raised $400 million, so I'm very experienced in what it takes to get that job done, what a good pitch is, how to build one. I've done one IPO, 3 of my companies got sold, and a bunch of failures. And I'm readily willing to admit that. And I love that in Silicon Valley we have the culture of not really caring about failures, or just looking at them as a chance to learn. And everybody knows that they can be a great entrepreneur because, these aren't my words, but I read this. There's 2 reasons. One, the billionaire guy that you read about that was the founder of Company X, well, chances are you might have known them, and they're a jerk. Someone else wrote that, but there's some truth to it. But secondly, the failures are tolerated because you just learn. And if you went through and looked at most successful entrepreneurs who I think kind of have this public image of being, an atlas, and everything they touch turns to gold, it's not true at all. You go back through their business career, they've had a bunch of junky companies that didn't work out. So, that's not a problem for me. It's not fun, but you learn a lot from those. And I've had a bunch of them, including one that raised $100 million on its own. Complete write-off. There literally was nothing even left of it to sell. So I've done the co-founder, CEO, chairman, partner, COO, CFO, VP of corporate development at a public company, advisor, investor. Clean tech, financial services, venture, professional services, mobile, and storage. Those are kind of my domains, and I'm just putting this up there again in case somebody's, connecting a dot and has a startup in that area and wants to talk to me. So those are my main areas, and mostly these companies were selling to enterprise customers. So a bit on forming. Shaheen asked me to talk about forming and managing startups. I'm going to go quickly here. I think it's a pretty binary choice, to start out with, meaning that you can kind of go big with an idea that has a lot of space around it. A Tesla. You can think of lots of startups that really claimed a big mind space. And the paradox with those is that they're easier. They're not easy to have all the key ingredients, right? You got to be a certain person. You have to have done certain things. You got to have a certain team. So there's a bunch of prerequisites. But if you've got those, the big ideas are easier because you're just selling PowerPoint. You got to sell it really well. But we've done companies where we raised $1 million per page, probably. Some $2 million per page. And why I'm saying easy, by the way, feel free to just object or ask a question or challenge me on this. But why I'm saying easy is because you're just selling a vision, and you're selling paper, and you're probably doing something no one's ever done. So there's limited ways to really attack the plan. And if the market space and the vision is so big, it just appeals to high-risk investors with big funds who are set up to back that kind of a thing. The minute you start actually doing something, though, if you go small or bootstrap, it gets really blanking hard. And because you've done something, and you have metrics, and people can ask you questions about that, and you have customers, but you don't have enough customers, and you get into the issue of reality versus a promise. So yes, please. Oh, 5 minutes. My favorite phase of the startup is the PowerPoint phase, because you can really sell anything, and then you get the money, and you go have to build it. Our story, we started small. Which is why I'm saying it's really hard. It's the first one I've done like this with more of a bootstrap. Our goal was to get a working product and sell it with as little investment as possible. And we literally had none. I loaned the company money. I got some money from friends and family. But it was a small amount, really, really tiny. We traded stock for services. We paid people half their going rate. It worked for free. I worked for free. A lot of long hours. But we did it. We did it on a shoestring. Then things got rolling for us, and we got some more money to play with from Cray. Launching, we needed funding and credibility. Cray helped us with both of those. I don't think I have time to go into the pros and cons of working with a public company in an A round. There are pros and cons. Overall, they're great. They've been great. But I guess if I were going to boil it down, I'd say be super careful. I used to think VCs told you to not take money from public companies because they were jealous. And they were going to get put out of business if public companies started doing a good job of investing. Now I know a little bit different, which is that they're not investors. They're whatever they are. Cray's a supercomputer company. They don't have one person who's an investment person. They have a person who looks after the investment, but that's totally different. So their goals, their motivations are always to do their business, not your business. And if they fail at investing, nobody cares. That's very different from a VC or a professional investor who's going to do everything they can to make you successful. So that's the short version. Happy to talk more. Final kind of slide or two here is on managing. I got to meet Howard Stringer when he was the chairman and CEO of Sony, which is hundreds of thousands of employees. And I asked him, what was that like running Sony? And he told me, well, it's like sitting on top of a giant rocket, except all you have to steer with are like two little tiny levers that you could just barely hold with your fingers. So you got all this power and then there's no ability to steer. That was his summary of running Sony. And it really struck me because at a startup, I don't know if this is the right analogy. Maybe it's a go-kart or something, but it's like a unicycle. You decide to change. You just change that day. There's no committee. At worst, you maybe have to talk to an investor. So it just couldn't be more different. And then the value creation story links to that, because at big companies, anyone know whose company that is? Yes. Versus small companies. This is my Gantt chart, I guess, on how it works, right? I've worked at big companies. You have your input, you have your rock you're trying to move for all your great reasons, and to get your bonus and everything. And then it goes in here, and then the result comes out. But as you can see, if any, because usually not any. And you run around spending all kinds of money and your own time and really in the end your life trying to achieve something that probably didn't even have a good reason. It was just an MBO on some VP's list and didn't even help the company. So sorry if that's too pessimistic, but that's how I feel in my career based on what I've learned. At the startup, of course, you do an input and you see a result right away, and no one can stop you from achieving what you want to achieve, if you're the kind of person that can go out there and get it done. And this is true everywhere in the company. It's not just true for me as the CEO. It's true for our engineers. It's true for everyone. You want to change something, you just do it. And I think that's a cooler way to work, and it's the best thing about startups. It's my last slide. The parting thought, tying to those previous slides that I wanted to leave you with, is that it's not how much money you make, how you make the money is more important than how much money you make. I'll acknowledge that's a lot easier to say once you've made some money. But think about it. It's true. You know, you're going to get there someday in a big company or a small company. You need to enjoy it, and I think you need to know that how you spent your time away from your family and your dog and your hobbies meant something. And startups are tough, but you'll always feel like you did something concrete and real. So that's my 2 cents for today. Oh, how I can help you, because this is a community thing. I can talk about strategy with anyone. You can tell me your idea if you want to trust, and I can give you free advice. I can possibly make introductions. I say possibly because kind of semi-cold introductions are worthless. But if it's a domain where I know an investor who's interested, and you're a great person and we can connect the dots, I'm happy to do that. And then I'm also good at looking at pitches and saying, well, you know, it's too long, or say more about that, or you're killing yourself with this other thing. So my name's on the last slide, and in the materials, feel free to get in touch with me.
You got a question, I think, Deborah?
Yeah, question.
So are you capturing new workloads, or are you flipping existing infrastructure? I'm trying to understand where you fit in the market.
Yeah, we're doing both. Okay. We are picking off disaffected customers from our competitors, and we're doing some greenfield stuff as well. We just added object storage, so people want to put stuff into the cloud, but they don't have a good POSIX namespace to deal with that. So it's both.
That's what I was assuming.
Yeah, we're deploying a big bank in Germany, hopefully in the next month, and it's a greenfield. They never had an HSM. So it's an abstraction layer. They want cheap storage below it, and they want freedom from all the hardware companies below it, and then they want to consolidate all their 40 app silos above it. So kind of both.
Thanks so much, Bruce.
Sure.
Very good.